If you're a writer who gets lost in researching and is drowning in open tabs, then this video is for you. You will learn how to stop overthinking, how to beat information addiction, and how to create with clarity. Give me 10 minutes and you will get years of clarity in return. It was about 7 years ago when I went to the medical center to donate blood, and after donating for a few minutes my vision got blurrier and blurrier, and it didn't get any better. It was like I stood up way too fast. So I called the nurse and she quickly put my chair back and the blood rushed back to my mind and everything became clear. But the real insight came years later. Again, I was going to donate some blood and a part of me was feeling nervous. So I sat down in the chair and I started asking the nurse the most random questions. Where does this blood go? Where do they use it for? Do you donate as well? Can I buy you a drink? And that's the moment when I saw a pattern. Whenever I'm nervous, my mind comes up with questions to distract me from my feelings. And all of a sudden my whole school career made sense because I always got into the same pattern over and over again. Start a project, start the research phase, and then get lost in research because I'm way too curious, realize that there's no more time left, get even more nervous, do more research to avoid all the nerves, and then eventually I was too late to hand in the assignments. And that's analysis paralysis. As a writer, you might recognize this because you want to start writing, you have this amazing idea, but soon you find yourself digging deep into the research. You tell yourself that you need more information, more preparation, more time, but deep inside you know that it is just fear. And many people will tell you done is better than perfect, any movement is better than no movement, and just learn by doing. But that just doesn't really touch the root of the problem. The root of the problem isn't laziness, it's self-protection. Because you're afraid to write something that's not good. The fear of writing something imperfect. The fear of failure. Do you have big, amazing ideas, and does this make you afraid of failing, and that if you don't meet these high standards that you didn't do well enough? First of all, that's great. Realize that being idealistic is also a great strength because many people don't even try or aim that high. They think it's unreasonable, like climbing the Mount Everest naked. It somehow feels like all the ideas are there, but the execution is missing. To avoid the nervous feelings, you start to overanalyze and question everything. Part of you believes that the solution is found inside of your mind. And a part of you knows that you just have to do the work. But somehow you can't do it and it makes you feel guilty and lose all your self-respect. So let's work on that. And not with just do the work advice, because if it was so simple, you would have already done that. You are capable. Your life force can do it. It's just that you have a few unproductive patterns that need to be heard, not ignored. What you resist persists, and you tried pushing them away but with little results. You need to bust the myth of the mono mind, and I will dive deeper into this later in the video. The common misconception is that you only have one character, when in reality you have different sub-characters that all want different things. One of them has the role to flood your mind with questions when you're feeling nervous. And the first step is actually to be compassionate towards this part of yourself. There are different questions that you can ask this part of yourself during a meditation, like what is your goal? And what would you do if you didn't have this goal? What are you afraid of? And what do you desire? The most important thing is to understand that there are no bad parts. Your patterns of behavior are there because they have or had the role of protecting you. And once you understand this, you can actually give more space to your life force. This inner guidance, some people call it intuition, some people call it the self or chi, or as Ang would call it, visiting the spirit realm. Imagine ignoring your intuition for so long that it stops telling you what to do. A year ago I did a small portion of psychedelic mushrooms on my own. I sat down to meditate on my meditation bench, and it felt as if my body had a character. It was no longer the meat and bones that walk me around this earth. It was a being with a personality and desires and dreams. My mind and my body started having a conversation, and I felt grateful towards my body. I felt grateful because I noticed that there is a lot of wisdom kept in there. It's the source of my intuition, something that I can also access by doing holotropic breath work, for example. My body doesn't only bring me to places physically, it also guides the decisions to get to those places. Back then I also felt compassionate to my body because I realized that I don't really listen to it that well on a day-to-day basis, because it's more practical to just ignore my intuition. But during that conversation I learned that the more I ignore my intuition, the less it will also try to guide me. My head and body shook hands, and I decided to listen to my body more often. As this was only a very low dose, I didn't see any visuals. I only saw a very light blue light when I closed my eyes. If you have any idea what this means, let me know in the comments. One message just kept coming back. Open, open, open. A part of me was scared to let the shield down, and I started to investigate what it was that I was actually protecting. And then I realized that the core me doesn't need any protection. It's strong, it's capable, it's calm, it's creative, and it can heal itself. It was a very empowering experience. Some people believe that every disease or muscle tension or hiccup has a deeper meaning. Personally, I think it's somewhere in the middle. If you catch a virus, you get sick, that's just biology. But somehow many people that I talk to intuitively know that if you work a job that you don't like for 40 years, you will eventually get a heart attack. So how do we distinguish between real messages from our subconscious and something that's just biology? So that we can get a clear picture of what our body is trying to tell us, because our body doesn't have language to talk to us, so it will find any other way to get its message across. After reading the book No Bad Parts, the conversation between my mind and my body started to make sense. I actually learned by reading this book that you don't need any psychedelics to get this kind of experience, because our core, our self, is already calm, capable, confident, creative, curious, compassionate. Your essence, called the self, is hidden behind parts that you created to protect yourself. So for example, when you were 4 years old, you were afraid of failure because your parents really wanted you to be the perfect child. To avoid failure, part of you became lazy. Because if you are lazy, you don't get anything done. If you don't get anything done, you cannot fail. So problem solved. There are many self-defense mechanisms that are called parts that can lead to any kind of behavior, such as procrastination, binge eating, alcoholism, cutting yourself, gambling addiction, workaholism, knowledge hoarding. And if you become compassionate towards these parts, you realize that they are actually there to protect you. So these parts actually have a good intention, they just have really terrible coping mechanisms. And this method is called the internal family system, because it's as if there's a whole family of characters inside of your personality. And I challenge you to open your mind on what I'm about to tell you, because the author of the book did a study on people with rheumatoid arthritis. 36 people received this internal family system therapy for 6 weeks, and another group of 40 people received education about rheumatoid arthritis. And during this therapy they asked questions to their physical pain And they got answers such as, "We're going to cripple you so you can't keep doing this. We're going to keep doing this until you listen to us." As these people started to listen to their parts, some of their symptoms started to improve and some people even got completely cured. I know you will be skeptical, and I'm also not saying that this is the magical pill that can cure cancer. Medical science is absolutely wonderful, but I think there's a message in this story. As the author said, we all have genetic flaws and predispositions, and our parts often know about those, just like in the movie Inside Out. It's as if parts of us have a control panel in front of us and they can just push buttons when they want to. So here's an exercise to figure out what your body has to say. Sit down with your eyes closed and take a few deep breaths. And just notice a place in your body that doesn't feel quite right. Notice how you feel towards it and try to become curious towards it and just ask it what it wants you to know. If no answer comes, that's also fine. It could just be a physical issue. If so, try a different place in your body until you do get an answer. And try to get to know that part that creates this uneasy sensation. So for example, you could ask it what it's afraid would happen if it didn't do this to your body. You can try to show it appreciation because it's actually trying to protect you. And a final question could be, what do you need from me in order to stop doing this to my body? And when the time feels right, you could thank this part of yourself and slowly start focusing on the outside world again. I really hope that this helps you to realize that you are not an overthinker. It's just a part of you that's trying to protect you. And you can become a better writer by 3 things. First, recognize this pattern inside of you. Notice when you are over-researching instead of writing. Talk to the fear. So instead of running away from it or ignoring it, just ask it the question, what are you trying to tell me? What are you protecting me from? Set tiny deadlines. Just show this part of yourself that you are actually capable. Tell yourself, I will write 200 words before I research anything. In that way you can show that part of yourself that you are calm, capable and creative. That way it can learn that it doesn't have to protect you and it can actually go back to its original role. I hope that helps and thank you for watching.